My mother called me an ungrateful little parasite and demanded to give my apartment to my pregnant sister because she needs it more. I refused, and they put my stuff outside. So I called the police and evicted them all. Well, let's go. My name is Penelope, and I'm 30 years old. I work as a financial analyst for one of the biggest investment firms in Chicago. But let me tell you the whole story about how I ended up living alone in my apartment with no contact with my mother or sister. A decision I don't regret one bit, despite what half my extended family thinks. Growing up wasn't easy. My dad walked out when I was 12, leaving my mom to raise me and my younger sister Madison, who was only 7 at the time. From that moment on, it became crystal clear who Mom's favorite was. Madison got new clothes from Nordstrom every season while I wore hand-me-downs from Goodwill until they literally fell apart. Madison got dance lessons at the fancy studio downtown, piano lessons with the best teacher in the neighborhood, art classes at the community center, whatever she wanted. Me, I got a job at the corner store when I turned 14, stocking shelves and mopping floors after school, just to have money for basic things like school supplies and lunch. When I graduated high school with a 3.8 GPA and got a partial scholarship to Northwestern, Mom sat me down at our kitchen table, the same table where she'd help Madison with her homework every night, while I figured out calculus on my own. "I'm proud of you, Penelope," she said, not looking me in the eyes, "but I can't help with the rest of your tuition. I need to save for Madison's college." Madison was only 13 then, still 5 years away from college, but apparently her future education was more important than my present one. So I took out student loans, $40,000 worth. During college, I worked 2 jobs. Monday through Friday, I'd wake up at 5 a.m. to work the morning shift at a campus cafe from 6 o'clock to 10, then rush to classes. Evenings were spent at the library, not just studying, but working the desk until midnight. Weekends, more cafe shifts and freelance data entry work I picked up online. I ate ramen 5 nights a week and peanut butter sandwiches for lunch every single day. Meanwhile, Madison was posting Instagram photos from her weekend shopping trips with Mom, showing off her new iPhone while I was still using a flip phone from 2008. After graduation, I landed a job at Baxter Financial Group with a starting salary of $65,000. Most people would have celebrated, maybe treated themselves to something nice. Not me. I moved into the cheapest apartment I could find, a studio in Austin on the west side in a building where the elevator worked maybe half the time. The radiator claimed all night. The walls were so thin, I could hear my neighbor's TV word for word, and there were suspicious stains on the ceiling I didn't want to think about. But rent was only $600 a month, and that's what mattered. I kept both my weekend jobs, doing freelance financial analysis, and still picking up cafe shifts when I could. Every penny went into savings. I had a spreadsheet where I tracked every cent. I wore the same 5 outfits to work on rotation, shopping at thrift stores when something wore out. I didn't go out, didn't date, didn't do anything that cost money. My coworkers would invite me to happy hour and I'd make excuses. They thought I was weird, antisocial. They didn't understand I had a goal. For 8 years, I lived like this. When I finally had enough for a 20% down payment, $76,000, I bought a 2-bedroom apartment in Lincoln Park. Nothing fancy, but it was in a good building with doormat security, working appliances, and windows that actually sealed properly. The mortgage was $800 a month for 15 years, but with my salary, which had grown to $85,000 by then, I could afford it. The day I got the keys, I sat on the floor of my empty living room and cried. Mom called a week after I moved in. "Congratulations on your little place," she said, emphasizing little like it was something shameful. "Madison says Lincoln Park is getting kind of sketchy these days. You know, you could save so much money if you just moved back home with us. Madison and I have plenty of room." "Thanks, but I'm good here," I told her. "Sweet yourself. Always been stubborn, haven't you?" "Well, I hope you're not too lonely in that apartment all by yourself." That should have been my first warning sign. 3 months later, my phone rang at work. It was Mom and she was crying. Not just crying, sobbing dramatically. "Penelope, we're in trouble. The landlord raised our rent by $500, and Madison lost her job at the boutique. We can't afford to stay here. We'll be on the street." "What about Madison's college fund you saved?" I asked. "The one that was so important you couldn't help with my tuition." There was a pause. That's gone. Madison needed it for things. The things, right? I found out later things meant a failed attempt at becoming an Instagram influencer. She'd spent $30,000 on photography equipment, designer clothes, bags, shoes, and even hired a social media manager for 3 months. She had 2,000 followers to show for it. "We need to stay with you," Mom continued, the tears getting louder. "Just temporarily until we get back on our feet. We're family, Penelope. Family helps each other. I wanted to say no. Every instinct, every fiber of my being screamed at me to say no. But the crying got louder and the guilt trip hit its mark. The little girl in me, who still wanted her mother's approval, won out. Fine, but it's temporary. 3 months maximum. They moved in with 2 carloads of stuff. I'd cleared out the second bedroom for them, figuring Mom and Madison could share it. I'd even bought an air mattress. But within a week, my organized apartment looked like a tornado hit it. Madison took over my bedroom, the master bedroom with the in-sub bathroom and the walk-in closet, claiming she needed the space for her work. She was trying to be a beauty YouTuber now, and apparently that required my bedroom's better lighting. She didn't ask, just moved her things in while I was at work. When I came home, my clothes were piled on the couch. Mom took the second bedroom, saying her back couldn't handle sharing with Madison and definitely couldn't handle the couch. I'm in my 50s, Penelope. I need a proper bed. You're young. The couch will be fine for you. So there I was, sleeping on my own couch in my own apartment that I was paying $1,800 a month for. It got worse, much worse. Madison treated the place like her personal kingdom. She'd have friends over without asking, sometimes until 2:00 a.m., on weeknights when I had to be up at 6 o'clock for work. I'd come home to find strangers in my living room drinking my wine, eating my food. When I complained, Madison would roll her eyes. God, Penelope, they're just friends. Stop being so antisocial. Maybe if you had friends, you'd understand. She went through my things like they were hers. My expensive face creams that I'd saved up for. She used them liberally, leaving the jars open on the bathroom counter. My silk blouses that I wore to important meetings. She borrowed them for her YouTube videos, returning them with makeup stains. My emergency cash I kept in a drawer. It mysteriously disappeared. And when I confronted her, she said, I needed it for an Uber. I'll pay you back. She never did. Mom was no better. She completely took over the kitchen, rearranging everything. My organized cabinets became chaos. She threw out my meal prep containers because they were taking up too much space and replaced them with her collection of mismatched Tupperware. She tossed my healthy food, saying it was rabbit food, and filled the fridge with junk food and frozen dinners. She redecorated without asking. My minimalist living room became cluttered with her knickknacks, family photos, none including me, I noticed, and gaudy throw pillows. You should be grateful, she'd say whenever I protested anything. Not everyone has family willing to help them feel less lonely. You were living like a robot before we came. Now this place actually feels like a home. I wasn't lonely. I was perfectly happy alone. But now I was miserable in my own home. The bills started piling up. Their few things included Madison's entire YouTube setup, which ran my electricity bill up by $100 a month. They were both home all day, running the AC constantly in summer, the heat blasting in winter. My water bill doubled from Madison's hour-long showers and Mom's constant laundry. Internet usage went through the roof from Madison's uploading and streaming. When I asked them to contribute, Mom looked at me like I'd slapped her. We're family, Penelope. Family doesn't charge each other rent. Besides, we're in a tough spot. You have a good job. You can afford it. 3 months came and went. They showed no signs of leaving. When I brought it up, Mom would start crying about how hard it was to find affordable housing, how Madison was so close to making it big on YouTube. She had 500 subscribers, how they just needed a little more time. Then came more bold moves. Madison started bringing guys over, different ones every few weeks. They'd eat my food, use my Netflix account, and treat me like I was the intruder. One guy, Brad, actually asked me, So, do you live here too? Madison laughed and said, Unfortunately, she's my sister. She's kind of a loser, but she pays the bills, so we keep her around. Mom started going through my mail. I'd find open bank statements, credit card bills. When I confronted her, she said, I'm your mother. I have a right to know how you're doing financially. And frankly, Penelope, you're being selfish. You have all this money saved, and we're struggling. That's not very Christian of you. Then came the announcement that changed everything. It was a Sunday morning. I was trying to enjoy my coffee on the balcony, the only place I could find peace since they never went out there, when Madison burst out, practically glowing. I'm pregnant, she squealed. Mom jumped up from where she'd been sitting on my couch, watching TV on the new TV Madison. Bought with my TV money, and hugged her, tears streaming down her face. Oh, baby, this is wonderful. When did you find out? Yesterday, Jake and I are so excited. We're getting married next month at the courthouse. Jake, the unemployed DJ she'd been dating for 4 months who lived with 3 roommates in Wicker Park and thought cryptocurrency was going to make him rich any day now. The same Jake who'd eaten $50 worth of my groceries last week and told me I needed to chill out about material possessions. Mom turned to me with this look, a look I knew meant trouble. Well, Penelope, this changes everything. Madison's going to need stability for the baby. This apartment would be perfect for them. They can find their own place, I said flatly. Don't be ridiculous. A baby needs a safe, clean environment. Madison needs this apartment. You don't even use most of it because you two have taken over every inch of it. Madison glared at me, hand on her still flat stomach. You've always been jealous of me. Now you're jealous that I'm having a baby and you're going to die alone with your spreadsheets and your pathetic savings account. I didn't respond. I just went inside and locked myself in the bathroom, the only door they hadn't removed the lock from, and only because I'd installed a new one after Madison kept barging in while I was showering. Monday morning, I was at my desk working on a quarterly report when my phone rang. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. She called again and again. On the fourth call, I picked up. Penelope, I need you to listen very carefully. She said in her I'm the parent voice that she still thought worked on me. You're going to transfer the apartment deed to Madison. She's pregnant. She needs this more than you do. You're young. You have a good job. You can easily rent a room somewhere. Absolutely not. Excuse me? I said, no, I worked for 8 years to buy this apartment. I'm still paying the mortgage. Madison and Jake can find their own place like actual adults. You ungrateful little parasite, she screamed. Yes, screamed. My coworkers looked over at me. I walked quickly to the conference room for privacy. After everything I've done for you, you've always been jealous of Madison. Always jealous that she's prettier, more talented, more lovable. You're a bitter, envious witch who can't stand to see her sister happy. I hung up. That evening, I drove home with a knot in my stomach. Something felt wrong. When I got to my building, the doorman, George, who I'd gotten to know over the months, looked uncomfortable. Miss Chen, there was some commotion earlier. Your family was moving a lot of boxes. My heart sank. I ran to the elevator, jabbed the button from my floor. When I got to my hallway, I saw it. Boxes, my boxes. My clothes, my books, my personal items, everything I owned, all packed in cardboard boxes and sitting by my apartment door. I tried my key. It didn't work. The lock had been changed. The door opened, and there stood Madison with Jake, both smirking at me like they'd won the lottery. What the hell is this? I demanded. This is our apartment now, Madison said, rubbing her still flat stomach dramatically. Mom said you agreed to give it to us for the baby. So sweet of you, sis. I never agreed to anything. This is my apartment. I own it. Jake stepped forward, trying to look intimidating despite being 5'7" in and skinny as a rail. Look, your mom said you were being difficult, but the decision's been made. You need to think about the baby. Don't be selfish. Get out of my apartment right now, or I'm calling the police. Madison laughed. That mean laugh she'd perfected in high school. Go ahead. Mom will tell them you gave us permission to live here. It's our word against yours. 2 against 1. 3 if you count Jake. Besides, what kind of person kicks out a pregnant woman? How do you think that'll look? Mom appeared behind them, arms crossed. Penelope, stop making a scene. Maybe you should see a therapist about your memory issues and your jealousy issues and your anger issues. They slammed the door in my face. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds in complete shock. Then I calmly picked up my boxes, went back down to the lobby, and asked George to help me load them into my car. He didn't ask questions, just helped. I drove to a Holiday Inn, got a room, and immediately called the police. I'd like to report a breaking and entering, I said. Someone has changed the locks on my apartment and refuses to leave. Are they current residents? The dispatcher asked. They were staying with me temporarily, but I own the apartment. They've locked me out and changed the locks without permission. We'll send someone over. The next morning, I met 2 officers at my building at 8:00 a.m. I had every document, the deed, my mortgage statements, my bank records showing the down payment, my ID showing my address, even emails from the property management company confirming my ownership. We went up to my apartment. Officer Martinez knocked firmly. Police opened the door. Mom opened it already in performance mode. Her face was tear-stained, her hair messy, like she'd been up all night crying. Officers, thank God you're here. This is just a family dispute. My daughter is having a mental breakdown. She's trying to kick out her pregnant sister. What kind of person does that, ma'am? According to these documents, this apartment belongs to Penelope Chen. Are you Penelope Chen? No, but I'm her mother. And then you need to leave. This is her property. Anyone here without her permission is trespassing. Madison appeared, and the fake tears started immediately. She was good. I'll give her that. She actually made herself hyperventilate a little. Please, I'm pregnant. She's kicking out her pregnant sister. I have nowhere to go. My baby will be homeless. What kind of monster does that? Officer Martinez wasn't moved. Ma'am, you have 1 hour to pack your belongings and leave, or we'll arrest you for trespassing. The tears stopped immediately. Madison's face turned ugly with rage. You're going to regret this, Penelope. You're going to die alone, and no one will care. No one will come to your funeral. Keep talking and it'll be 30 minutes, Officer Martinez said firmly. When they finally had their things packed, Mom stopped in front of me. The officers were watching, so she couldn't do what she probably wanted to do. Instead, she leaned in close and hissed, "You're not my daughter anymore. I have one daughter, and it's not you. Don't ever contact us again." Madison walked past with Jake, who was carrying most of the boxes. "I hope you're happy in your empty apartment with your empty life. At least I have people who love me." "Yeah, people who love you so much they let you mooch off them," I shot back. She turned red but kept walking. That afternoon, I had a locksmith install new locks. Expensive grade 1 deadbolts that couldn't be picked or bumped. I changed my phone number, blocked them on all social media, informed my building security that my mother and sister were not allowed in under any circumstances, and gave George their photos. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The next day, my phone started ringing. Unknown numbers. I didn't answer. Then texts started coming through. "This is Aunt Patricia. Your mother told me what you did. How could you?" "Penelope, it's Uncle Tom. You need to apologize to your mother right now." "It's your cousin Janet. I can't believe you kicked out Madison while she's pregnant. You're disgusting." The calls and texts didn't stop. I had to turn my phone off to get any work done. That evening, there was a knock at my door. Through the peephole, I saw Aunt Patricia, Uncle Tom, and my grandmother, Mom's mom. I didn't open it. They stayed there for 20 minutes knocking, calling out, trying to shame me into opening the door. Finally, George called up to say they were disturbing other residents, and they left. The next day at work, our receptionist came to find me. "Penelope, there are some people here to see you. They say they're family." I went to the lobby. There stood Uncle Tom, Aunt Patricia, and my cousin Mark. In my workplace, in front of my colleagues. "We need to talk about what you've done," Uncle Tom said loudly. "Throwing your pregnant sister on the street. What kind of person does that?" "This is my workplace," I said quietly. "You need to leave." "Not until you agree to do the right thing," Aunt Patricia said. "That baby needs a home." Security ended up escorting them out, but the damage was done. Everyone at work was staring at me. My boss called me into his office. "Penelope, I don't know what's going on in your personal life, but I can't come to work. Handle it." The relatives didn't stop. Cousin Janet showed up at my gym. "I joined just to talk to you," she said while I was on the treadmill. "You need to make this right." I put my earbuds in and turned up the music. Uncle Richard called my office directly. "This is a family emergency," he told our receptionist, so she put him through. "Penelope, your grandmother is so upset she can't eat. She might have to go to the hospital. Is that what you want?" I hung up and reported the call to HR. 2 weeks after the eviction, I got a letter at work. It was from Mom, but she'd clearly had help writing it to sound more formal. "Dear Penelope, your recent actions have caused irreparable harm to your sister and her unborn child. As your mother, I am formally requesting that you reconsider your cruel decision. Madison is pregnant and vulnerable. Jake has left her due to the stress you've caused. She is alone and frightened. Your aunt and uncle have offered to take us in temporarily, but their house is not suitable for a baby. You have a 2-bedroom apartment that you selfishly keep to yourself. If you have any humanity left, you will contact me immediately to arrange for Madison to return to the apartment. If not for her, then for your innocent nephew, who didn't ask to be born into such a heartless family. I have loved you despite your difficult personality, your jealousy, and your resentment. But this may be beyond forgiveness if you don't act soon, your mother." I threw it in the trash. A month after the eviction, my cousin Beth came to my office. We'd always been friendly, though not close. She was one of the few relatives who hadn't attacked me yet. She looked uncomfortable. "Your mom asked me to talk to you," she said. Against my better judgment, I listened. Apparently, Madison and Jake had gotten a 1-bedroom apartment in Cicero, a rough neighborhood an hour from downtown. Jake had promised he'd get a job to support them, but 2 weeks after moving in, he'd announced he wasn't ready for fatherhood and left for Los Angeles to pursue his music career. He blocked Madison's number before he even got to the airport. Madison, now 3 months pregnant and alone, had tried to move back with Mom, but Mom had given up their rental house, thinking she'd be living with me permanently. The landlord had already rented it to someone else. Mom ended up getting a studio apartment in a sketchy part of Rogers Park that cost $200 more than her old place. And now Madison was sleeping on her couch. "Your mom's working double shifts at Target just to make rent. Beth said Madison can't work because of morning sickness. They're barely eating. Your mom wanted me to ask if you'd reconsider letting them stay with you just until the baby comes." "No." Beth left, and I thought that would be the end of it. But 3 months after the eviction, there was another knock at my door. This time it was Grandma alone. She was 78 and she'd taken the bus to get to my apartment. I could see her through the peephole, looking small and tired. Penelope, please, I'm too old for this. Just let me in. I almost didn't open it, but she was my grandma. She'd been good to me when I was little before she started favoring Madison, too. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. Can I at least sit down? She asked. My knees aren't what they used to be. I let her in, but didn't offer her anything to drink. Your mother is struggling, she began. She's my daughter. I have to try to help her. But Penelope, what she did was wrong. I told her that changing your locks, that was too far. This surprised me. You did? I may be old, but I'm not stupid. You bought this apartment. It's yours. But honey, Madison is about to have a baby. Your nephew. Doesn't that mean anything to you? It means Madison should have thought about that before she tried to steal my home. Before she let Jake raw dog her after knowing him for 2 months. Grandma winced at my crudesse. You're very bitter. I'm realistic. Mom made her choices. She chose Madison over me every single time for 30 years. Now she gets to live with those choices. Grandma left, and I heard later she told the family I was unreachable. It's been 6 months since I kicked them out. My apartment is peaceful. I come home to silence, cook what I want, watch what I want, sleep in my own bed. I've started dating a guy from my gym named David. He's kind, has his own life together, owns his own condo, and most importantly, has no drama, no crazy family trying to steal his home, no expectations that I'll save him from his bad decisions. Last week, I got another letter, this time to my home address. Someone had leaked it. It was in Madison's handwriting. Penelope. I had my baby, a boy, Jaden. He's beautiful. He looks like Jake, unfortunately, but he's still beautiful. We're living in a shelter now. Mom couldn't afford the studio apartment anymore. The shelter is terrible. There are addicts here. It's dangerous. Jaden deserves better. I know I said horrible things to you. I'm sorry. I was jealous. You always had your life together, and I was a mess. Mom always told me I was special, that I deserved the best, that things would work out for me. But they didn't. And instead of facing reality, I tried to take what you'd earned. I'm not asking to live with you. I know that bridge is burned, but could you maybe help us get a deposit for an apartment for Jaden? He didn't do anything wrong. Madison. I read it 3 times. Then I looked up homeless shelters in Chicago until I found the one they were likely at. There was only one that took families in the area where they'd been living. I called and anonymously paid for 2 weeks of a motel room for them. Not a nice motel, but better than a shelter. I didn't leave my name. That's all they'll get from me. 2 weeks to figure something else out. It's more than I got when I was sleeping on a couch in my own apartment being called a parasite. Yesterday, I made my mortgage payment of the month. Only 162 more to go. I celebrated with a nice dinner at a steakhouse downtown, RPM Italian, the kind of place I never could have afforded when I was saving every penny. I ordered the bone and ribeye, a glass of good wine, took my time enjoying it. I took a picture of my steak and posted it on Instagram with the caption, "Grateful for my peaceful life." Within an hour, I had a message request from a fake account. The profile picture was blank, but I knew who it was. Must be nice to eat steak while your nephew goes hungry. Hope you choke on it. I blocked the account and kept eating. The steak was delicious. Some people might think I'm heartless. Some might say family is everything, and I should forgive them. Those people probably haven't had their belongings thrown onto the street by the same people demanding their help. They probably haven't worked 7-year weeks for 8 years, just to have someone try to steal what they earned. I'm not heartless. I just learned that sometimes the most important thing you can do is protect yourself from the people who are supposed to love you, but don't. Sometimes the only way to have peace is to let go of the people who bring chaos.